Picked up this old Hoff 30B payloader today. It's pretty knackered. I really only got it for the wheels because they're the same size as my grader and they're in much better shape. So I'm going to attempt to take it up to the yard today. It's about 6 kilometers up the driveway. But after the first kilometer it was starting to show signs of overheating. It's leaking a bit of coolant down there. And yeah, you can see it's all over here. I don't know if it's the head gasket. I think it's possibly like this pipe up here is quite loose, so I'll try and get that on there a bit better. Could just be coming out of there. I thought it was coming out of the water pump, but it could actually just be dripping down onto that from up there and flicking the coolant around. So I'll see if I can get a better hose clamp on that or tighten that one up, because that's just moving around all over the place. The radiator was quite cool, but it was sort of overheating in here, so yeah. We'll try and get that off and see what's going on. I've just noticed a little glow plug there, so that would probably make it a bit easier to start if we can get that sorted. I'll take that out once I've done this and see if it's still working, because it's a real bugger to start and I don't like feeding it too much ether. Should slide off there. A couple more bolts up the front there, I think. You can tell it likes its ether. There's 4 cans of ether here. She's had a hard life, I think. Rather than fix the problems, I've just sprayed ether into it. Not a good sign, but anyway, is what it is. That wasn't holding on by much at all. Alright, looks like they've like jammed a rag around it to try and keep it in there. What have we got in there? Maybe that's where the steam was coming from, pushing out of that joint there. Alright, that's on there a bit better now. I'll do that up and see if that makes a difference anyway. That doesn't seem to be leaking now. Those other pipes, they seem okay. Alright, that is a glow plug. I'll give that a test when I get home. I mean, it might be okay, it might have just had the wires pulled out at some stage, but I can't really do much about that here. I mean, it might just be a case of giving it some maintenance as well. It looks like these fuel filters haven't been changed for a while, so it could have a bit of a blockage somewhere, but that leak seems to have stopped, so I think we'll have another go at driving it, see if we can get a bit further. I'll just keep a close eye on it and take the fire extinguisher just in case she bursts into flames. She's running pretty hot. That's spitting water out of the top there, which is not a good sign. Doesn't seem to be circulating the water properly. It's almost like the water isn't flowing through the radiator, so there's either a blockage somewhere or that water pump isn't pumping. I think that could be the problem, because if the thermostat was blocked, that wouldn't be hot up there. So do a bit more on the cooling system, I think, before I go any further. Otherwise it's gonna cook the engine, I think. Something I didn't notice before was the oil cooler here has been blocked off, and you can see the outlets there. It looks like it's been like that for a few years. I don't know what's going on there. Maybe it was leaking. This is the oil pressure. It was coming up to about 40, so the oil pump must be working. That might be why they have disconnected the oil cooler. There seems to be a hole in it there. When the previous owner showed it to me, he ran it for about probably 6 or 7 minutes and showed me it seemed to work all good, and then he shut it down, and I found out it seems to boil at about 8 minutes. So yeah, just one of those things, I suppose. So we'll pop that top off, get the thermostat out and water pump, and have a look at those. So I'm just checking for any blockages, because there could well be a blockage somewhere that's not letting the coolant circulate. So we'll just take a few pipes off. Fresh tool marks on that hose clamp, so I'm guessing they've had this off fairly recently. That's not a good sign, because that means they've probably looked at the thermostat and everything. all the obvious stuff. Shall see. The thermostat has been taken out of there, so that's not a good sign. That means they've tried to solve the problem already. The deeper I dig, the worse it's looking, so they've obviously tried to get on top of the overheating problem by taking the thermostat out, and yeah, it obviously hasn't worked, so that's not good. I was hoping to see a stuck thermostat in there. Can't feel any blockages in there. Okay, so there's that like a coil spring in there. That's kind of weird. So it looks like this spring is what's left over from the internals of this pipe. So it's all sort of corroded and fallen apart. It could possibly have gone through the water pump. Yeah, it's quite a bit of rust in here, so I'll give that a good flush out. It's not flowing through very fast. You see that? It's coming out the top there, and it should be coming out the bottom. So that could explain it. Yeah, it looks like we've got a blockage in the radiator. The water was actually going through quite slowly from the top to the bottom, so we could have a bit of blockage around this top side. It does have a lot of gunk in it. Possibly it's had radiator stop leak put in there over the years, and it's just built up on the top of these channels, and now it's not letting the water through. Filthy, man. Wonder how many eggs have been cracked in there over the years. That's looking a lot better in there, so hopefully the water will get through now, and then the radiator can do its job. So much better. So we'll take that water pump off now and see what's going on behind there. As far as I know, it's a German made, is it 239 diesel? Not 100% sure on that. I've never actually worked on one. I don't know what they like to get parts for. Probably quite expensive. I don't really want to throw too much money at it until I know it's going to be a runner. Those fins look fine, and it's obviously pumping water around. We'll take that off, that pipe, and have a look behind there, see if there's any blockages there. Okay. Let's see what comes out of this block when we undo this drain. Yeah, that's flowing out now. Just a bit of a blockage, so yeah, we are getting coolant flowing around the block, I think. I'll push some water through from this end and see if it comes out that tap and out of here. That should show up any blockages. So it does seem to be flowing around the block okay. There doesn't seem to be any blockages in there that I can see because I'm pushing the water through there. It's coming out around the block and coming out there. Alright, we'll put it all back together and see what happens. I don't have a gasket for this, so I'm just going to clean it as best I can and then put some gasket sealant on there and replace it later if need be. So just using a high temp RTV to seal this up. So I won't torque these up just yet. I'll let that sealant set for half an hour or so, and then torque them up, and that'll create a bit of compression in the joint. It's less likely to leak then. We'll carry on with the rest of it and then come back and torque those up. So I'm just using some non-hardening sealant for all these hose joints. Just try and keep the leaks to a minimum. The fact that there's so much crud in that radiator makes me think that it kind of looks like those bottles of radiator stop leak that you get that clog up any little holes. What's coming out of here sort of reminds me of that. So I wonder if there are bigger problems. Like there could be a head gasket or something, but we'll put it back on and see what happens. That's heavy. That sealant has dried a bit, so I'll just torque up those water pump bolts. Alright, so far so good. No leaks coming out of the water pump or any of the pipes. Seems to be holding its coolant okay. I'll give it a quick run and see if it keeps its cool.
So I think we've solved the problem. Everything's staying cool now. I had it running for about 20 minutes and everything is just so much better. Like before, I couldn't even touch that part after 5 minutes because it was so hot, but it's barely warm now, so that's perfect. I know it's circulating coolant now, so problem solved. As simple as that, just a blocked up radiator. So I'll just gently crawl it home and keep an eye on things, but I think it's going to be okay now. The fun continues. It's not overheating now, but it's I think it's got a fuel problem because it's just stalled on me. It was sort of starting to surge and then it finally gave up. I got another half a kilometre. That fuel pump's working hard. Because the tank is so low, it's got to suck the fuel up through the filters, so possibly the filters are clogged. There could be an airlock somewhere. So I'll crack that one and see if I can get some air out of the system. Oh, yeah, there's a bit of air coming out of there now. Okay. Kind of hard to see, but I'm just flushing all the air out of it. Line. There we go, there's some air coming out now. Right, there seems to be a lot of air in the system. I think it's just pushing air now, and there's an airlock in there. I'll take this one off and try and at least flush the air out of that. So the tank is way down here, so I have to bring that pipe down, get all the air up, maybe fill a little container and try and fill these filters up with fuel and get rid of that airlock. There's not much coming out of there. I did put 20 litres in before, so there should be plenty in there. Maybe we've got a blockage up in there, possibly. There's a blockage in that fitting there. You can see all the crud in it. So we can clean that out. Filthy. That would be the problem. The tank is filthy. Okay, that's got it. It's flowing a bit better now, but still 100%. There we go. That's more like it. So that's why it was starving, because that bottom fitting was clogged up. Okay, so this should start flowing now. Yep, that's way more like it. That's good. I'll plug that back in and we'll see if that pump can draw it up, otherwise I might have to prime the filters, possibly. Sorry it's so dark, but it's getting quite late now, so I might have to call it quits. So we've got that flowing to there. We'll see if this pump will purge the air, and if not, I'll have to fill up these filters, I think. Fuel pump on. Let's see what happens. Fingers crossed. Yeah, oh, that's more like it. Yeah, that's looking good. So that's pumped all the air out now. It should run. hopefully. Oh well, we made it home okay. It took a couple of hours, but got there in the end. Yeah, it runs really well, does everything it should. The only thing I did notice was the hydraulics were getting quite hot. So I was just lifting the boom up and down as I was going, and that was sort of acting like an oil cooler. That was pushing the oil through the rams and cooling it down, and that seemed to work quite well. But there's obviously something going on there. It doesn't seem like there's a blocked relief valve, because otherwise the engine would be labouring quite a bit more, but possibly it's a worn out hydraulic pump and that's heating up the oil, or maybe it could be a blocked filter or something. So I'll go through, and like, it hasn't had any maintenance for I don't know how many years, but it's just been sort of thrashed at a firewood yard, and they've never really done anything to it. And once it started giving problems, they decided to get rid of it and get a better machine. So it ended up being quite a simple fix, really. Just gunk in the radiator. It wasn't letting the coolant go through the radiator, and crap in the fuel tank. Basically just lack of maintenance, I think. You can see the grease points haven't been done for years. They're all rusty and dry, so yeah, it just hasn't been maintained at all. So I'll go through and give it a good bit of maintenance, and do some oils and filters, give it a good going over, and it might be a fairly decent machine once I've done that. Not sure where I'm going to park it. The missus hasn't seen it yet, so I might be in a bit of trouble, but I might have to hide it somewhere so the missus doesn't see it. Alright guys, catch you later.